If you've written your song or you're writing your song and you have your melody, but now you're ready to add harmony parts, but you don't really know how or where to start, or you feel like it's really complicated, but you'd love to have 4-part harmony, this is the video for you, because we're going to dive in and we're going to write 4-part harmony, including the melody, starting with a melody that I already have. This is a great follow-up if you've watched some of the other videos I have on harmony writing. This is the 3rd video in our 3-part series. In the first video, we covered oblique harmonies. In the second video, we covered tight harmonies. In this video, we're taking what we've learned, putting it all together, and then we are coming up with 4-part harmonies. So if you're interested in that, this is the video for you. We're gonna sit together at the computer. I'm gonna show you my process, and we're gonna write some 4-part harmonies together. Before we dive in though, I do think it's really important when writing harmony vocals, you need to have some basic understanding of music theory. Specifically, the things that you really need to know are intervals and keys are both super helpful, which conveniently enough, those are 2 of the 4 pillars of music theory that I think every single songwriter needs to know. And I have a free guide, link will be in the description, for you to go check out, where I teach you those 4 pillars of music theory that I think every songwriter really needs to know, will help make you more efficient at songwriting, will help you become better at songwriting, and it will just make the whole process less of a headache, and you'll know what you're doing at every step of the path rather than constantly making guesses and just being happy when your guesses turn out correctly. Music theory, the basics of it are really not that complicated. Again, there's only 4 pieces that I think are at the root of that. So if you're interested in learning that, something that is a really good precursor to watching this video, go grab that guide. It's at songwritertheory.com/music theory guide. But if you already know the basics of music theory and you know keys and you know intervals, then you're ready for this video. Let's dive in. So we're actually going to start this video where the last video ended, and that last video was on tight harmony. So we had a tight harmony that is a 3rd below the melody. This here is our melody. And we have a 3rd below tight harmony. So the first question we want to ask is, where do we want the next harmony to be generally as far as in the pitch range, right? So we can add another harmony above what we have so far. We could add a harmony below what we have so far. And really, this harmony, because it's tight harmony, right, there's no room for another harmony in between our melody and our tight harmony. So we really don't have the option of adding one in between. So above or below. And my answer to that, in the context of this song, we're already going up to an A that is below tenor high C. So we're getting pretty high. And in the context of this song, this melody is really meant as the highlight. I do not want anything to take away from the shine of this melody. Best way to do that, have all your stacks of harmonies beneath that. Think if you've ever listened to quartet music or anything, usually at the final, most epic chorus, especially if you listen to any like Southern gospel quartets or whatever, you'll notice it's very often that the lead, aka the second highest part, will carry the melody most of the song, but then the tenor, the highest voice, will actually take over the melody for that most epic final chorus. That's exactly the type of thing that we're thinking of, and that's sort of what we're drawing from here. We really want to give it that final chorus epic. This is that, like, the high note is the melody feel. That's what we want to add here. So because of that, we know we want the harmony to be below. So now the question is, okay, where below? And what type of harmonic movement do we generally want it to have? We already have a tight harmony, right? Could we add another tight harmony below this? Yeah, probably. But I actually want to start moving in a more oblique direction. But before we do that, a good question to ask ourselves is, wait a second, before we start filling in the harmonies, because the more harmonies we fill in, the more notes we fill in, the fewer options we have. Do we want to commit to having a double of our melody? And I'm personally a big fan of this. I think having a double of your melody an octave down for a chorus, right? If you're hitting some high notes in the chorus, adding that octave down doubled melody really adds some thickness, adds that little bit more epicness to it, right? Because they sort of blend together and make this extra powerful melody. And again, the point of harmony, right, is to add to the melody, to support the melody. What better way to support the melody then adding a double of the melody an octave down to really add some nice lower texture to it and to really add some thickness to it. So that's actually where we're going to start. And we might end up adjusting that to not be a perfect double, because a doubled voice an octave down is also a really good place to sort of create another harmony part, which we will save for the end, that is a little bit more advanced. A little bit being the keywords. All right, so now we have the doubled melody. Let's take a listen. So as you can see, that really hammers home the melody even that little bit more. So now, okay, we have 3 different voices now. What's our 4th voice look like, and where is it? There actually is room for another voice here. But for now, I'd really like to add some oblique harmony. So for oblique harmony, as we talked about in previous videos, we basically have 2 options, or 2 main options, 2 easy to use options. We can use pedal harmony, or we can use chord tone harmony. I'm actually going to go with a pedal harmony down here at this C. And here's why. Pedal harmony specifically tends to shine when it's the lowest note, because actually pedal harmony, the term comes from on an organ. You know how there's pedals that the organist will like step on and it plays this really, really low note? That's actually where it comes from. Generally, a pedal tone sounds best just like sort of if you have a low rumbling synth that plays throughout your whole song, right? Like a drone that plays the entire song. Or if you think of like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, right, where you have that drone, that's usually on your first. That's on your tonic. Whatever your key you're in, it's just that note the whole time, and it can work. You can add that to pretty much any song that will work. That's basically what we're doing vocally here. So I want that low melody is a great place to have that pedal harmony. So we're going to add that. See how it sounds. All right, let's take a listen. All right, let's take a listen to what it actually sounded like without it. So that is really subtle, and yet it really adds a lot, right? And really holds down that low end and really anchors the whole melody and anchors it to the key as a whole. So I actually really, really like the use of pedal tone here. Now the question is, we could add a 5th harmony, but let's stick with 4. But how can we make it more interesting? And a great way to think about this is in terms of the 4 types of harmonic motion. So I had a video that came out that's me teaching what those 4 harmonic motions are in under a minute. Go check that out. But we have oblique motion, which oblique motion is basically when you're taking 2 notes and their movement, when one goes up or down and the other one stays the same. So in this case, right here, from here to here, this note's going up, but this one's the same. So we have oblique movement in here, from this to this, because one is going up and one is staying the same. And we're adding a lot of oblique movement to this just by having the one note that stays the same. Our pedal tone harmony is giving us oblique movement. Every time one of these other parts moves, there's going to be oblique movement, because we know that there's one note that's always staying the same. So we're getting oblique movement sort of for free from the pedal tone harmony. Now, certainly, we're not getting it, say, from here to here, right? Because these notes are all the same, because the melody and the harmonies are also staying the same. But we're getting at least enough oblique motion that I think for that part, we're mostly good. Also, we have a ton of similar motion. In fact, this is literally a straight-up double of our melody, which is as similar as it gets. Really, it's parallel motion. It's parallel octaves. So we have parallel motion here because it is exactly the same intervals, because it's literally an octave down. And then we also have similar motion. represented here. Similar motion is basically any motion where you're going in the same direction, right? So both of these notes are going up, right? This is going from an E to an F. This is going from a G to an A. Notice though, one is only going up a half step and one is going up a whole step. That's what makes it similar motion instead of parallel motion. The interval is changing. This is a minor third. This is a major third. So it is therefore similar motion. So we have parallel motion. We have similar motion. We have oblique motion. You know what we have none of in here? Is that fourth and final type of motion. We do not have any contrary motion. What's contrary motion? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is notes moving in the opposite direction. If you notice, there is never a case in here where one note will be moving up and the other one will be moving down, or one is moving down and the other is moving up, right? This as a stack all moves up together, and down together. And then this stays the same. There is nothing going in the opposite direction. And I think a great place to implement this is actually changing our double to actually function as a part that will add some contrary motion. And now let's adjust this harmony, or what is now a double, to actually make it an actual harmony part that will have some contrary motion. And I'll talk through how I'm thinking through this. So I want this part to actually be pretty perfectly consonant, because we're going to be adding some dissonance here because we're still over a C major chord, but the melody has an A and the harmony has an F. Neither of those notes are in a C major chord. So there's going to be some dissonance, which is why here, if you listen, is perfectly consonant, and then it becomes a little dissonant here. Listen for it. Did you hear it? I want to keep it consonant. Because of that, I want to keep this at a G, because a G is in our C chord. I could move it down to an E. I don't want to do that because I want to keep it basically in the same area as what the double was. So G is our best bet, because I can either go up to a C, which is in the C chord, or down to the E. I don't want to do that, so let's stick with the G. What about here? Okay, so everything else is moving up or staying the same. So because we want contrary motion, we want this to move down. So the question is, where should we move it down to? We could actually move it down to an F, which will then make it double the harmony part above. Let's start with that. All right, starting to hear a good difference already. That contrary motion helps a lot. And then here we're going down. So we want this to be contrary and move up. So the question is what to move up for. So we're still in a C major chord. And here we have a D and an F, which is going to be also fairly dissonant with our C major chord, because again, neither of those notes are actually in our chord. Not sure yet if we want to add to the dissonance here or actually take away from the dissonance a little bit, but we know we want to move up. So we could move up to a G, because that's in the key of C, or an A, or we could actually do sort of stepwise motion and go down again. That is an option. But I think I want to move up. So let's try up to G first. Okay, so what did I do right there? Basically, we're starting with, we just want it to move contrary. These are going up, this goes down. These are going down, this goes up. This is going down, this goes up. The other thing we want to keep in mind, well, two things. How is it going to harmonize with the other vocals? And then how is it going to harmonize with the chord behind it? So in this case, we're taking a little bit away from the dissonance of the vocals against the chord, because it's still on a C major chord at this point, and we have a G here. So this is a D and an F. Those two are not notes that are present in the chord that's being played in the arrangement. So we can double down on the dissonance or we can take a little bit away from it and not be so dissonant, which is actually the choice we made here. Now, what's interesting about that, though, is it actually adds a little bit of dissonance to the harmony parts if you just sort of listen to them alone. So some different things to consider in there. And then here, we knew we had to go up again. Well, we don't have to go up again, but we're trying to add contrary motion. We're trying to keep it relatively simple, so we're going up again. And we have a C, and we have an E here. And then, of course, a C down here. And this is a golden opportunity to actually come together and be perfectly consonant with the chord beneath. Right here is where we transition to an A minor chord. You know what this is? An A minor chord. We have an A, we have a C, and we have an E. This is exactly an A minor chord here with then a C in the bass. So to me, this is an easy choice. We can't really go up to the B, and we want to move up. So this is sort of just a win-win. There are other options. We could stay on the G. So that versus this. I really like when it moves up again, keeps that contrary motion going. So now, really, with just doubling a voice, having our tight harmony, adding our specifically pedal harmony, which is a form of oblique harmony down here, and then taking our doubled harmony, that's an octave below, and just changing it up a little bit so that it functions in context as adding contrary motion, so that now we got rid of our primary source of parallel motion, but that's okay because we have similar motion. Parallel motion is really just a specific, more dangerous form of similar motion. So we have similar motion with our tight harmony. We have contrary motion with the harmony that we made off of our doubled vocal, a doubled lead vocal. And then we have oblique motion represented and made very possible by our pedal tone harmony. And now we have 4-part harmony that really has all of the really basic elements of harmony that you want. We have nice harmonic movement where we have oblique motion, right? So right here, oblique motion, or this with any of these, right? Oblique motion. One note staying the same, one going down or up. And we also have contrary motion at play. This is going up, this is going down. So we have all three and then similar motion, this harmony with the melody. So really what we have here is we've added our oblique, our contrary, and our similar. And it's really simple, and it will get the job done, right? Now, we can certainly make the harmonies a little more interesting. We can play around with this more. But for now, this is a really, really solid start. So, my challenge to you is to go write some harmonies, and here's how you're going to do it. Start with a tight harmony. Okay, start with a tight harmony. I don't care if it's above or below, but start with a tight harmony, which is going to be either a third above or a third below, generally. Second step, I want you to double your melody, an octave above or an octave below, and then we're going to revisit that, just like we did here. But for now, just double it. Call it a day. Then add an oblique harmony, either chord tone or pedal harmony. Pedal harmony is really going to anchor it to the key of the song. Chord tone is going to keep it anchored to the current chord. You can even change it up, right? Maybe do one measure of pedal and the next measure of chord tone. Doesn't matter. Experiment. But make sure you have an oblique, have your double, and have your tight. Then do what we did here. Revisit your double and say, okay, how can I adjust this to sound good where I'm actually introducing contrary motion? So everywhere it's going up, I'm actually going to go down instead. Do that, and then let me know how the results go. Let me know in the comments. If you put up a video or something of it, shoot me a link. That'd be extra cool. So go do that, and I hope this was helpful to you.